My name is Diane. I am your fasting mindset coach for today's conversation. Today we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting and glycogen depletion. I'm also going to talk about how we can utilize the training aspect of the trifecta we talk about here to also help improve your glycogen depletion. So welcome if you're joining us new. Like I said, my name is Diane. I'm an intermittent fasting lifestyle coach and mindset coach. Today, like I said, we're going to talk about glycogen depletion because I know it is one of those things that we hear the word depletion and oftentimes we panic. And I want to explain to you how really getting good at depleting glycogen stores can really work on your behalf. So I am the creator of the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman online course and community, as well as the Midlife Mindset Shift course. We work in our Midlife Mindset Shift course a lot on glycogen depletion. And so glycogen depletion, again, it's one of those things that we hear the word depletion and we panic and we can think that it's a bad thing. So what I want us to start thinking about is glycogen utilization and how it is we can put our body in an advantageous position to actually utilize glycogen that we have in storage and pull it out to make it readily available for us. So for a lot of us women who are going through hormonal changes or we're frustrated with our inability to lose weight and all those things that happen to us as we go through these changes of life, it oftentimes is the result of us having so much glycogen in storage. So the opposite effect of the depletion aspect of things, and that we have been packing away so much glycogen over the years that now we're in a place where our body is not working as it has been designed to work, and we don't get through enough of the readily available glucose in our bloodstream to actually dip into our storage. So I like to call what we have in storage as kind of like our pantry, right? And if you're not going through your pantry, in a systematic way and rotating food and pulling out things that are expired and you're only shoving stuff in there, eventually your pantry starts to overflow. And when your pantry starts to overflow, it becomes ineffective, right? You don't know where the food is that you want to eat. Maybe you have stuff that's gone bad. You're not utilizing it in the proper way. So let's think about our glycogen storage system as the same way as we would a pantry. And the more we shove in, the less effective our system is going to work for us. So glycogen is stored in two places, our liver and our muscles. The thing about liver glycogen is that it's stored in a more concentrated way because your just liver is smaller than the muscles you have throughout your body. So glycogen is stored in larger mass throughout your muscles because of the fact that you just have more muscles on your body. So when glycogen is released into our bloodstream, it's in the form of glucose. And so if you follow me on Instagram or you're in my Midlife Mindset Shift, we do some work on glucose and ketone testing. So the glucose that's in your bloodstream is what we're talking about here. It's when you have glucose in your system. For a lot of us women who are insulin resistant, we often have higher glucose readings in our system constantly because of this situation that I explained in the beginning, and the fact that we've been packing on so many carbohydrates and not utilizing them for so many years that now we're in this stage with our body hormonally where we're in glycogen backup, right? And we're not pulling it out and being able to utilize it the way it was intended to be used. So when your body's not operating the way it was designed, then we get that backed up situation. This is where a lot of us are insulin resistant, becoming diabetics. This is where Alzheimer's becomes a problem. We have foggy brain, we can't lose weight. We're storing fat as energy because we're not utilizing our energy system in the correct way. So do me a favor in the comment section. Let me know if you are currently testing for blood glucose or blood ketone levels. I want to kind of know in our audience who's testing for that on a regular basis. Not that you have to do it, but I'm just curious to see if anybody is currently doing that. So let's talk about liver glycogen storage. So when we have too much of a concentration of glycogen stored in our liver, that's when we can end up with situations like non-alcoholic liver disease, where our liver just is packed with so much glycogen that it just becomes in a disease state. If you're overweight, obesity is another one of the signs of glycogen storage overload in your liver. Insulin resistance is one of those situations. High levels of triglycerides in your blood, which is why I always recommend getting blood work done and paying attention to changes in your blood work from your last physical or last blood draw to your current one. Significant changes in triglycerides and glucose levels and those kind of things are things that you want to make sure you're paying attention to see if there's might be something that's becoming problematic for you. Never had an issue in my 40s, hit my 50s and menopause, and all of these things started to become problematic for me for sure. So muscle glycogen storage. So let's talk about how we use muscle glycogen storage, how our body utilizes it. So just kind of hanging out, not really doing a whole lot or not asking a lot of your body. You burn about 1 gram of a glycogen per minute. So just sustaining your life energy-wise. If you're working out at an endurance pace, let's say, and you're actually in like a training type of modality, you're using about 2 grams per minute. And if you're doing things at a race pace or a higher intensity, it's about 3 grams per minute, right? So that's how your body is utilizing, or the speed in which it's utilizing what you already have available for it. You tap out of your glycogen stores at about 1 hour 45 to about 2 hours of endurance type exercise. So if you are an endurance athlete, if you're a marathoner, if you're like someone who goes out and walks intensely on the weekend for a couple hours, you're a tennis player, any of those types of activities, you have about 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours, where you have everything in storage that you can draw from and not feel the sensation of an energy storage change or an energy utilization change, right? And so that's what I want us to think about, is the fact that if you are like I was and you have insulin resistance or a pre-diabetic state, or you have a really hard time losing weight and you don't understand why, it could be the simple fact that you're not using up what you have readily available, so you never get to tap into what you have in storage. So you're always pulling from what's readily available, and you never really get to that point where you could get your body to that depleted state. So this is where I want to talk about utilization of glycogen and not just the fear of being depleted, right? So if you're that type of athlete, you probably have felt, I know I have felt, I've run a couple half marathons in my day. When you get to that point where you feel glycogen depleted, it just means you don't have that instant energy to draw from. You hit what's called the wall, or you kind of feel that bonk, or that sensation that you can't go any further, right? That is more of a sensation and a mental and emotional response than it ever is you physically are incapable of moving forward. So when I first ran my first half marathon, I was definitely a sugar burner and was relying on glycogen readily available and stores to get me through my race. And about mile 10, I completely bonked and basically just told myself, I was going to finish my race, that I could crawl to the finish line. Like I could crawl 3 miles more if I had to, because I've been, I've exercised that distance before. And I just drank some water. I did a little glycogen, refresh, I guess, on my body. And I ended up running my half marathon, finished, it was fine. The second time I trained for my half marathon, I trained as a fat adapted athlete 4 years later. Completely different set of training modalities for myself, and never hit a wall, never bonked out, finished my half marathon in I think it was 11 minutes faster than I did the first time when I trained like a typical half marathoner. And it felt fantastic. So you can train your body to switch over energy sources or feel more comfortable in a fat adapted state. You do not have to rely on glycogen, but you can make that energy switch over quicker if you just train in that. And that's where we have to really think on our mindset frame and how it is we respond to how our body's feeling. So I want to talk a little bit about that today as well. So what are some signs or symptoms that you might notice if you're getting to that place where the readily available energy is no longer available for you? And if you're not fat adapted, you're going to have that kind of panic feeling. So for a lot of people, if you're a weightlifter, right, and you're used to lifting heavy weights, if you don't have that glycogen readily available to give you the glucose in your bloodstream, you'll feel like you can't lift weights as heavily as you did if maybe you ate right before you worked out and you have that readily available energy. So you'll just feel a little bit weaker than normal. You'll feel, and if you go off that how you feel, so I train 2 ways: monitoring your heart rate and the rate of perceived exertion. So how do you feel your body is responding to the activity that you're engaged in? So you'll feel that sensation change more rapidly when you're not running off of readily available glycogen, kind of in experience in your body, or you're in that beginning stages of the depletion mode. You'll feel like a sense of flatness in your muscles. When I did a bodybuilding program that I was in the infomercial for, a lot of people right before they took their after pictures, they completely depleted their system, and then they would eat I think it was sweet tarts right before their photo shoot that would just fill up their muscles so they looked bigger than they actually were. So they got that inflamed kind of look in their muscles from having just straight sugar shot into their body. You'll notice if you're getting to that point where you're depleting glycogen stores, you'll notice a sudden weight loss. This happens a lot in our intermittent fasting for today's Aging Woman course. The first 7 days, you lose a lot of weight because you are forcing your body to go into that depletion mode. And oftentimes that's just a release of water weight. Water weight is weight, so we don't discount it. I always say if you step on the scale and you're holding water weight and you're bummed about the number, you should always reward yourself when your body let goes of water weight and that number goes down, because weight loss is weight loss. But that's the explanation usually of why we see that big drop in weight when you make a significant change in the beginning. And then you might find that it's difficult for you to work out in a prolonged endurance type of environment, because again, you're going to get that sensation that you've run out of easy energy. And for a lot of us, that doesn't feel good. So we get in our mind that we have to stop because it's a danger sign. And for most people, the average person, it's just a switch over from easy energy to energy your body has to actually work for it to find. So it is a mindset shift. So 90 minutes of moderate to high intensity exercise will deplete your liver glycogen. Weight training does feel better if you have readily available energy to tap into. So I said that again. I personally love working out in a fasted state. And I recognize now how different my body feels energy-wise, depending on how deep into my fasted state that I am. So, and I feast to support my next fasting opportunity or my next training session. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I think glycogen depletion is very advantageous for our community because we have so much in storage. And that is the problem so many of us are facing, right? Is the fact that our insulin is so out of balance and that we can't regulate that, because when we're insulin resistant, we know that our body, the way it responds to food entering in our system, or even the possibility of a feasting type environment, we're super hyper responsive. So we need to deplete our system so that we can go back to working the way our body was designed to work. And once that happens, that's really where you can just pay attention to the signs and signals and live a very happy life with your fasting, your feasting, and your fitness, and not feel like you have to be in a panic. And some of that is going through a training session for your body and teaching your body how to tap into storage so that you can utilize what you have. So that's what happens oftentimes when I share on my Instagram that I'm working out in a fasted state and I'm working out for 60, 75, maybe even 90 minutes. It is how I deplete anything that doesn't get used in the course of my everyday life, right? So we know we need energy to get through our everyday life, but what if you didn't utilize everything that you took in. So if you don't utilize all the energy that you take in, that does end up going into storage. And then if you don't create an environment to take out of the storage cabinet or the pantry, like what you can utilize in the course of your day, then the storage gets backed up and keeps getting packed on and keeps getting packed on and keeps getting packed on. So the more you can train your body to utilize what's in storage, or like what's often referred to as depleting your glycogen stores, that's when you can really get yourself back to that baseline every single day where you're not having to dig deep into storage. You just use what's readily available. So I like to teach in my intermittent fasting for today's Aging Woman course that our last meal is our easy energy, right? That's the energy that's sitting right there on top. It's so ready for our body to get into. Then we go into the storage cabinet, right? So there's a little bit of a feeling between easy energy and having to go into storage and forcing our body to provide what's in storage for us as an energy source. When we get through all of this, which for some of us is a pretty deep storage facility, and we get into fat burning mode, that's when we really become effective at this lifestyle that we're trying to create for ourselves. So think about when you're engaging in your next feasting opportunity, what choices will you make? This is where feasting well comes into place. What choices will you make that will support what it is you need to utilize to get you through the next day? And if you're training smart, how will you train to make sure that everything that's readily available will get utilized and you'll create the opportunity to tap into that storage? And then remember, you can never ever have a completely depleted system, because the next time you put something in your mouth, the next time you consume something, you're going to create a new insulin response, which creates a new opportunity for stuff to go into storage. So you will never ever completely deplete your system. There have been people who have water fasted for 40 straight days. We actually have 40 days of storage in our body that we have available to us with no new food experiences, just water and minerals is all we need, and you will survive. So I want us to stop panicking when we hear certain terms and take a second and think, like, if I create a glycogen depletion environment in my body, how will that help me achieve my goals? And we don't always have to use food to fix that. We can actually trust that our body knows what to do and we can get through it. So what made me think about this topic today was the fact that I was on a 75-minute bike ride with one of my favorite Peloton instructors. Absolutely love him. He's a super sharp guy when it comes to fitness, but he's little. I took a picture with him standing next to him. He's a little guy. He doesn't have 1 ounce of fat on his body. He is an endurance athlete, and he eats like bananas and granola bars during a 75-minute bike ride. And I am always bummed out for the poor women in that class who don't understand that they're probably not like his body or his metabolism. And I can get through a 75-minute and even a 90-minute workout class without having to eat a banana at 60 minutes in. I have enough in storage that's carry me through, and that's what I'm trying to do with my fitness, is utilize what I already have in storage as my energy source so that I don't become backed up and I don't end up with a pre-diabetic state again or insulin resistance. And so I want you to think about, when you hear the word glycogen depletion, change the mindset you have around that and the vocabulary you use, and think about creating a glycogen utilization environment for you and see how that works for you. You do not have to be in a gym to make this happen. You can do this through fasting long enough, feasting well enough, and training smart enough for your body. Once you see the signs and signals of what it is you're hoping to have happen actually happen, that's when you know you've created the right environment for you.